Do you want to know how to make $74,000 without lifting a single finger? Well, stick around and I am going to talk you through it right now. We are back, Alex Money Time for School, and today we are doing Tax Planning 101. Let me talk you through this and how you can put an extra $74,000 in your pocket without doing diddly squat differently to how you are now. So I'm going to give you this little scenario, and we're going to be talking about a guy called Alex Turk. It's certainly not me. I'm certainly not giving you tax or financial advice or anything else. We're just going to talk about a hypothetical situation about a guy called Alex Turk. Looks a little bit like me though. So Alex Turk has the following revenue streams. $180,000 a year or thereabouts is coming in from rental income from various properties, and that is 180 grand per year structured in a proprietary limited and trust structure. Then after that one, you've got about 220K a year coming in from an online business that Alex Turk has. That again is in a proprietary limited company. Now, that business is a cosmetic tourism business, so it helps send people from Australia and other parts of the world to Turkey to assist them with things like hair transplants, rhinoplasties, breast augmentations, liposuction procedures, whatever they like. Turkey's very, very good at those things, and also from a cost perspective, a little bit cheaper than some of the other parts of the world. So a really nifty business to be in, and one that gives a fairly nice payday every year. And after that, we've got about a $1.1 million capital gain in this particular year. Now we're talking about the last financial year. That was through selling a property. It was a long hold that he had for about 8 years. So obviously the capital gain was decent. It was big, taking into account COVID and the property boom and everything else. But I will say this as well. Anyone that's in development knows that these days, from purchase to planning, approval, build and sale, it's not a quick and instant process. 3 to 5 years is very, very common for a project of any sort of scale. So getting those sort of capital gains by the time you take in your profit and your capital growth, it's not uncommon. So on that position, we've got about $1.5 million of revenue that we are dealing with there. The tax position in Australia on that 1.5 million. So if we look at this particular scenario, $408,000 of tax was what would be hit on the $1.5 million pre-budget. So you'd be taking about $1,092,000. Post-budget, the wonderful changes that have come through, we all know about them. I'm not going to list them again, but post-budget, the tax position is quite simply this. You will be paying $458,000 tax as opposed to $408,000 tax. You're taking $1,042,000. So that is an extra $50,000 of tax that you're paying post-budget compared to pre on this scenario here. When things like this happen, when countries and economies and politicians and governments make these sort of choices and make these wholesale changes to the tax system, one thing that I think not too many people have discussed, and maybe even the politicians didn't think about, is that we live in this wonderful era of the World Wide Web, and there being an information flow that is unparalleled. Like, the speed and availability of information is absolutely insane. So clearly when we make tax changes, the world knows about it. You probably would have seen Mr. Albanese go to New Zealand and his counterpart over there poking fun at our new tax system. You would have seen the New Zealand Treasurer saying, hey, you know what, come over here, we don't have any capital gains at all. If you're going to invest in Australia, why not invest in New Zealand? I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but people take note. Another country that took note was Turkey. Quite coincidentally, you might say, and funnily enough, they made some really big wholesale changes to their tax system in the last few weeks. Changes that would benefit certain Australians in certain situations that had businesses that could be run offshore. So I'm going to give you a little scenario. If you take this tax position as you see it here, so the incomes that we've got on this side, the tax position that you've got here pre-budget and post-budget, and if we take that over to the new Turkey tax system that's just come into place, the tax position quite simply and quite shortly would be this. As opposed to your $458,000 of tax that you currently pay, you will be paying $384,000 of tax. You will be keeping $1.116 million, and you will be $74,000 ahead in your tax position in your pocket, literally $74,000 in your pocket, as opposed to the Australian tax position here. Now, a lot of you are going to say, oh, Alex, but that's cheating. You'll be changing tax residencies. You might be changing your personal residencies, all of these different things. You're tax avoiding and whatever else. Absolutely true. If you do any of those things, that's a totally different conversation. If you want to break rules, break laws, get into tax avoidance, then that's totally different, right? We can't do those things. It's illegal. And I still think that Australia gives us lots and lots of benefits. We need to respect those benefits, and we need to pay our taxes accordingly, which I have been doing and I will continue to do for a very, very long time. But now that you've caught me out on that and you've called me out on it, let me address it just quickly. This $74,000 windfall that goes into my pocket, Alex Turk's pocket, as opposed to this Australian tax system, comes from one change and one change alone. And it comes on the back of Turkey's changes to their tax system. And you can do your own research on that. I'm not saying Turkey's the be all end all. It's just the one that suits really, really nicely to an Australian that has a business that essentially operates in Turkey. So for all intents and purposes, I just pay tax here because I was lazy and it was convenient. But really, that online business, with its revenue being produced out of Turkey, the money going to Turkey, could have quite easily been established as a Turkish business with those funds offshore. So don't worry about anything else, because I know that's how you're going to try and catch me. You're going to say, oh, but Alex, you know, if you take this structure with the rental income over there and you get the tax benefits there, or if you take your capital gains, $1.1 million, of course you're going to get a little bit of a saving. Let me blow your freaking mind. To get that $74,000 saving, I am leaving This structure for the $180,000 in rent, totally untouched. That's going to remain a company under a trust in Australia, not changing at all. I am leaving these structures that do these developments and these property holdings that create their capital gains in their current structures, so companies with trust, whatever else it might be, and again, staying in Australia for tax residency as well. The only thing that is changing in terms of my tax position to create that $74,000 windfall is the $220,000 online business income from the cosmetic tourism side. Nothing else changes. Now, the argument for that is the cosmetic tourism side deals with Turkey. It makes sense that it's a Turkish company. The money that gets paid by Australian clients gets paid directly to Turkish businesses, Turkish surgeons and whatever else. And the essentially consultation fee that this cosmetic tourism company charges can be paid into Turkey quite logically as well. The entire enterprise is a Turkish business enterprise. So just by moving that one across to the Turkish tax system, your tax goes from $408,000 pre-budget, $458,000 post-budget to $384K in tax, 1.16, 74K extra in your pocket. Nothing else has changed. I stay an Australian resident, a tax resident, the companies and businesses, everything else stays the same. I'm not breaking any rules. I want to pay tax here. I think it's only fair that if you make money, you pay tax. But we need to keep in mind, the politicians need to keep in mind, if you do things like this, it incentivizes, it entices other countries to create scenarios that get the attention of entrepreneurial, business-minded people. Now, this is what I think is the absolute kicker out of all of this situation. It's not the fact that I might be saving $74,000. It's the fact that the Australian government has now given me a kick up the bum to go and look outside of Australia, not just for tax, but for business opportunities in general. I'm a fairly enterprising guy, and for whatever reason, when I do things, they tend to end up going well. They are successful, they are profitable. So I'm going to now put all of my eggs into that basket. I'm going to focus on those sides of the business that get taxed less. And if that goes really, really well, which I hope it does, then logically, I will move as much as I can offshore and I will stop investing in rental properties. I will stop developing houses and whatever else. So not only will I get extra benefits of paying less tax, but these are all productivity markers. These are all things that the Australian economy and the Australian people need. And you will now have one less person. And I'm nothing, absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. I am a tiny, tiny fish. I'm not here trying to big note and tell you how good I am. No, absolutely not. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a genius. I'm not some business and economic mastermind. I'm just a regular guy that has rough and tumbled his way through and figured out a way to make some money. If it gets to the point where the government wants to take that much of my money, well then yes, I am going to look elsewhere to minimize those losses. Now, what I want you to also understand is, I know this is going to come in the comments. Oh, this $1.1 million capital gain that you've got here, that's the bulk of it. That's where the big change is coming in. Yep, you got me. So if we just take out this $1.1 million event altogether and say that wasn't there and do everything I just said, so leave everything as is, but just take the online business, I will still be ahead $25,000 to $30,000 a year based on my tax position if nothing else changes. All right, so regardless, the one thing Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers have done with this new budget and the tax changes is they have opened the door to other countries, to other economies, to other people to say, hey guys, it's getting a bit tight, a bit tough in Australia. Why don't you look over here? And they're enticing, right? They've got good offers and people are drawn to them. So we have to understand, we've always had a skills shortage. We've had in my state of South Australia, we call it the brain drain. Anybody that was worth their salt would just leave, go to New South Wales, Victoria, or wherever else. We want to, as a country, minimize the reasons people leave. People stop spending, people stop being enterprising, people stop making profit. It's a good thing. If we do things like this new budget, people are going to leave. That's the long and short of it. It can't be argued. If you make it this unattractive to profit in this country, people will just make their profits somewhere else. So on that note, Alex Money, Alex Turk, if you're actually interested in any of those procedures that I mentioned, or just want to know more about the other sides of my business and how I make some of my money, we're going to drop some websites and URLs in the comments. Feel free to have a look. If you need a hair transplant, I've had one myself. Otherwise, I'll be bald as a baby's bum. Can maybe help you out with that as well. And hopefully, we've all learned something from this one. Unfortunately, the big pollies that make all the decisions, I don't think they have or have the capacity to ever learn. Alex Money, out.